Start.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to my informative speech for communications. Today I'm going to be talking about the history of women's rights through the ages, and today we'll be looking at a timeline as well as important women throughout history and today. Women are so influential to today's society, and it is important to know how far they have come. So here is the women's rights timeline. In 1848, the first Women's Rights Convention was held in Seneca Falls, New York, and 300 people went. 68 women and 32 men signed the Declaration of Sentiments, which eventually led to the 19th Amendment. 1849, Elizabeth Blackwell became the first woman to graduate med school. In 1869, Wyoming passed America's first suffrage laws, making it the first state women are given the right to vote. In 1916, Margaret Sanger opened the first birth control clinic, but it was deemed illegal under the Comstock laws. She founded the American Birth Control League in 1921, and it was the precursor for today's Planned Parenthood. In 1917, Jeannette Rankin of Montana is the first woman elected to Congress as a member of the House of Representatives. In 1920 came the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. In 1932, Amelia Earhart becomes the first female pilot to fly solo nonstop over the Atlantic. In 1973, Roe v. Wade passes the Supreme Court, protecting a woman's right to abortion. In 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor is sworn in, making her the first woman to serve on the Supreme Court. And last but not least, in 2021, Kamala Harris is the first woman and first woman of color to be sworn in as the Vice President. So here are important women's rights leaders of the past. Susan B. Anthony was known as one of the best and most iconic women's rights activists of all time. She was an abolitionist from a Quaker household fighting against slavery. She was an organizer of the Seneca Falls Convention and presented Congress with the 19th Amendment. Ida B. Wells was an African-American journalist and one of the most prominent early civil rights leaders and was a founding member of the NAACP. Fannie Lou Hamer was an African-American suffragette, women's rights activist, and a leader in the civil rights movement. She was a founding member of the Freedom Democratic Party, which she represented at the Democratic National Convention in 1964. She was induced posthumously into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1993 for her desegregation efforts and activism for improving the rights of women. And then this is a picture of Susan B. Anthony, Ida B. Wells is down here, and Fannie Lou Hamer is right here. Here are some important women's rights leaders of today. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was an iconic woman. She sued her own employer for paying women less than men. She has won multiple sex discrimination cases and led the ACLU Women's Rights Project, which played a major role in gender equality in the 1970s. Malala Yousafzai was a woman from Pakistan. At 11, she wrote about living under the threat of the Taliban, and at 15, the Taliban attempted to assassinate her by shooting her in the head, which failed. Then, she found international fame and support. She is the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner and has fought for gender equality worldwide. Michelle Bachelet is a human rights activist and the first woman president of Chile, and the first executive director of UN Women. She has noted that the pandemic magnified the extent and impact of inequality throughout the world. And then here we have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we have Malala Yousafzai, and Michelle Bachelet. All in all, women have made more than an important impact on society today. They have paved the road for women throughout today and in history and in the future. We have seen a timeline of all the amazing things women have done and have looked at some of the amazing things women have done past and present. Thank you guys so much for coming to my speech today.